I'm here today with Des O'Neill from OmniPro and CPD Store. And today, Des is going to be talking about how to have a different perspective on solving the most common problems facing firm owners at the moment. Let's get started. So hello and good morning to everybody that's joined us since the last time I was here. Good morning, Des.
Good morning, Simon. How are you?
Good morning. I am very well. Thank you very much. Radiant is my choice of words this morning for whatever reason. It's probably something to do with this red blind here that makes me look like I've got a suntan every time I turn it down. But anyway, without further ado, Des this morning is going to be talking about how to have a different perspective on solving the most common problems facing firm owners. As I always say, the best part about these conversations is the questions that the community asks as we go through. So if Des says something that you would like further clarification on, or you would like Des to expand on, please pop the questions in the Q&A box. You'll find it to the right of the raised hand feature on your webinar, or pop it in the chat box, and I will gladly interrupt Des as we go along and ask those questions for you. So without further ado, Des, I will pass the baton over to you. Go.
Thank you very much, Simon. Thank you very much. So just to make sure that everybody's alive and kicking here, maybe if you could go into the chat box there and just say a quick hello and let me know where you are in the country. So into the chat box and just let me know where you are in the country. Here's the thing, folks. Okay, you've turned up to be here with Simon. You trust Simon to bring something of value. You're here with me now for the next 60 minutes. And why I want you to type in the chat box is I want to know that you're engaged. Now, the difficulty with webinars and seminars and the whole Zoom revolution that's happened in COVID is that accountants now are attending more events, but very often they're not present. They're not conscious. And what I'd really love for you to do is to make a call on it now, to come here and be here with me now, turn off the phone, interact, be part of this and ask questions. Simon asked me to prepare a 45-minute session. I've got a 45-minute session, but it's your questions that are more important, it's your interaction. As you well know, I'm going to say lots of things in 45 minutes, some of which you're going to agree with and some of which you're going to disagree with. But what I'd really like you to do is to dispel any cynicism that you have. And because this goes to the heart of what I'm truly about. What I'm truly about is being open to the possibilities, of being open to somebody having a different view, of being open to growth, of being open to develop. You see, because it's not whether the other person is right or wrong. It's about understanding there's different views and different perspectives. And what I really want to do in this session is I really want to sow some seeds and to get you thinking a little bit about you and your business and where you are and where you're going and why you're doing all of this in the first place. Let's be honest, before we go any further, there's easier ways to earn a living than being an accountant. Now, I think at this stage, you all know that. So you're here for a reason. And if we're going to be accountants, if we're going to be firm owners, let's do it. Okay, so before we go any further, why would you listen to me for the next 45 to 50 minutes? Well, I'm an accountant just like you. I'm a dual qualified CPA, ACCA accountant. Just for the glamour of it, I went to become a chartered secretary as well. I've founded OmniPro over 20 years ago, and during that time, we have worked with hundreds of firms. We work from a technical perspective, and in recent years, I've shifted into more of a practice development, personal development side, but we are a technical service firm grounded in providing technical services. It just so happens that our clients are accountants. I've seen what works. I've seen what doesn't work. I'm seeing it every day. I'm seeing success. I'm seeing failure. I'm seeing pain, I'm seeing frustration, I'm seeing joy and delight. Okay, what do I want to talk about today? Well, first of all, I want to talk about where we are, okay? It's not just now that we have economic headwinds and challenges ahead, it's we're actually in them. Now, those economic headwinds and challenges, for me, haven't really landed yet. The true impact hasn't landed. And we're talking about a recession. We're seeing a recession on the horizon. We're seeing small business failures. We're talking about inflation and the cost of living crisis. But it's like it's something that's happening somewhere else, because it's not fully landing with accountants yet. So let's be honest. You know, we're in year 3 now of COVID. I remember I was extremely unpopular back in August of 2020 as we came out of the first lockdowns and kind of the world recognized we're going to get through this. I was extremely unpopular because I kept saying, well, winter is coming, and people were going, no, sure, we're going to come out of COVID and it's going to all be fine and the subsidies will have worked. And I kept saying, well, no, winter is coming. There was talks of it being the biggest boom since World War II, the post-COVID boom. But you see, that hasn't happened. And we're living with COVID now, but we've got Brexit and the impact of Brexit did. You see, I firmly believe that the impact of Brexit has been masked. I firmly believe the impact of Brexit was masked by COVID. But now we're really beginning to feel the pinch. And the war in Ukraine, it's horrific. But the knock-on effect of that in terms of supply chain issues from COVID, combined with supply chain issues arising in the war in Ukraine, combined with the surprising impact that Ukraine has on everything, I never realized how much it played a part in the supply chain of food, of equipment, shipping. And obviously then we've got the whole energy crisis. So now we've got inflation off the scale. And we've got a lot of upset. Now, the one thing that accountants have is resilience. Because I've seen this over the years, the resilience that accounting firm owners have. And accounting firm owners, and they solve the problems and they knuckle down, they get their head down, they do the work. And you see, accountants, for the most part, for me, firm owners, they really just want to help people. That's what it's all about. It's about helping people get a result. It's helping people solve the problem. Now, there's a couple of questions I'm going to ask you in today's session. And I really want you to sit back and to be honest with yourself. Because you see, sometimes I feel that we are asked questions or ask questions of ourselves, but that we're not really honest. That we give the answer we feel we should give. We give the answer that's like socially acceptable. We give the answer that we feel the other people in the room want to hear. We give the answer that, well, sure, you know, chin up, we're doing fine, let's just keep going here. So I'm going to ask you questions today, and I want you to be really, really honest. On every road, there's a choice. It's to go the easy way or the hard way. Which way do you tend to go? Do you always find out the easy way and do the simplest things, or sometimes do you go the hard way and make things more complicated for yourself? I want you to go into the chat box, and I just want you to type in easy or hard. Which way do you tend to go? So into the chat box and type easy or hard. So Esther is in there, easy. Ashley is being very honest, the hard way. Dave is going easy. Come on, there's more people on the call here. What way are you going? Martine is saying mainly hard. Who else here? Come on, give me another 3 or 4. I'm not going to go anywhere. Come on, give me another 1 or 2. Give me another one. So Simon is easy if I can. Okay. Now, for those of you who picked the easy way, congratulations. Congratulations if you always find the easy way, because you're way ahead of the game. But for those of you who picked the hard way, or for those of you who, well, think they've taken the easy way, but really picked the hard way, you got to ask yourself, what are you doing and why? Why would you pick the hard way? Okay, so what I'm saying to you right now is, facing into these economic circumstances, you have a choice. There's a fork in the road, and we can go easy way or hard way. And the hard way, for me, in its simplicity, is continuing to do what we've always done, expecting to get a different result. The profession has changed. How we work and what we do, we need to look at where do we change what we do in order to make the route easier for ourselves. So I ask you the question, what is your strategy and what's the plan here? Now, I know Simon works with these guys. You guys are in his mastermind. And look, he asks the question, you know, what's your strategy, what's your plan all the time? But one of the most important things for me is for you to acknowledge that you need to shift the strategy, you need to shift the plan. Because see, the strategy and plan that we had pre-COVID 2020 versus the strategy and plan that we have now in September 2022, it needs to have fundamentally shifted and changed. And when I'm working with accountants, I'm sometimes wondering, have they really shifted the strategy and the plan here, or are they very much trying to do the same thing and get a different result? So the first thing you want to do is you want to stand back, and in this context of easy and hard, what can you do to make this easier on yourself? Like, there's a whole lot of things that you as a business owner probably want. Okay, so we want turnover, we want profitability, we want people, we want customers, but really what we want is, we want a business that works for us. We want a business where there's not trade-offs, that the things that are most important to us are compromised. So what am I talking about here? I'm talking about, you know, trade-offs where you might have the money, you might have the business, but the trade-offs of health, the trade-offs of relationships, the trade-offs of mental health, the trade-off of spending time with your loved ones, the trade-off of you having a hobby. When was the last time that you did something for yourself? When was the last time that you actually did something for yourself? Not for your clients, not for your team, not for, and then the guilt of, well, you know, I'm doing this, and then going home and then trying to compensate for things at home. Where are you in all of this? The whole purpose of you having a business is that the business works for you. Now, again, this has been talked about ad nauseum. We go back to the concepts of the E-myth and work on your business, not in your business. So we all know the theory here. But be honest. Does your business work for you? Or do you work for your business? You see, so we need to look at the strategy here. We need to look at where we're going with this. And you see, we've got a problem right now. Okay, so the problem we have right now, the old model of business was, well, we add more clients and then we add more people and then we create more profit. But you see, we've got a problem now with the people resources. There's a scarcity of people resources. There's no shortage of clients. And you see, so maybe I started off a bit doomy and gloomy in relation to the recession and what's going to happen in the future. Well, first of all, you need to be brutally honest. You need to be an optimistic realist, because that's what's coming. But you see, now it's not about more clients and more people. It's about flipping your P&L upside down and saying, well, here's what the profits, here's what I need to live. Here's my non-negotiables in terms of health, relationships, hobbies, pastimes, contribution, life, purpose. And now here's the rest of my business model. And you see, what are people really looking for? I believe this simple spreadsheet, this simple PowerPoint right in front of you now is what business owners are really, really looking for. I've adapted this from a book written by a guy called John Warrillow, Built to Sell. And I've taken his book. If you haven't read it, highly recommend it as a read. And I think Michelle asked me some of the questions about books and what books would I recommend and what books would I recommend for mindset shifting. Absolutely. I love books, but John Warrillow and Built to Sell is one of the ones that I think every accountant should read, not just for yourselves, but for your clients too. The concept of the Built to Sell formula here is 7 steps, because this is about simple, because simple is easier. 7 steps, and we develop products or services with the potential to scale. Now, that's you can't be all things to all people. So this is products and services potential that you could niche, or you could just look at streamlining your products and services and how you deliver them. But your products and services have to have the potential to scale. If you are the center of everything that happens in your business, we got to go back and look at, well, how do we do this so the business is not totally dependent on me? Having identified the products or services with potential to scale, then we identify who the customers are to buy them. There are some people you're meant to serve and some not so much. I'm going to come back and talk about this a little bit later. Identify the customers. So have a red velvet rope policy. This is like an exclusive club, and they have a red velvet rope policy, and the red velvet rope policy dictates who gets in and who doesn't. The vast majority of accounting firms don't have a red velvet rope policy. Now, sometimes there's a very plausible reason for this, because when we're in growth stage, we take on clients that work for us in the here and now, but as we evolve 2-3 years later, the clients who were ideal at one stage may not be ideal right now. You see, what got us here is not going to get us there. So we've got to develop this red velvet rope policy in terms of, well, who gets in and who doesn't? And who's already in that needs to go? But then who are the ideal customers? People often talk about pricing and stuff to me, and they say, Des, when the new clients come in, I can price them, and I price them appropriately, but the real challenge is pricing the existing clients. This is where the red velvet rope policy comes in. This is where we need to be very clear on who our ideal client is, because you've got some people in your business that are not ideal. And creating a positive cash flow cycle. So this is level 1, moving to fixed pricing. Level 2, moving to progression payments. Level 3, moving to collection by monthly DDs. And level 4, moving to a memberized model. As we face into a recession, think back to the previous recessions. Some of the things you don't want to have when you're going into a recession is you do not want to have debtors. You do not want to have work in progress. You need to liquidate debtors and work in progress. You need to raise your prices. And you need to put people on progression and automated payments. That's a must. And building the team, okay, so this is central to the whole process. And it's not necessarily about building a bigger team of 50 people. Whether we have a team that consists of you and one of the practitioners I came across recently, they literally have themselves of one team member, but they've offshored or outsourced or contracted their entire operations. Whether you're that type of business or whether you're somebody with a team of 50 people, we've got to adopt the thought process of thinking who, not how. We've got when we think, how do I solve this problem? What ends up happening is all the burden and all the weight comes onto our shoulders. Whereas when we think who, not how, we think, okay, well, who is the person that can help me solve this problem? It now becomes a collaborative process, and we just have to find the next two. Who's the next two who can progress this for me? So thinking who, not how. I talked about this earlier on. You know, this is about shifting your mindset. This is about opening up your minds to new possibilities and new ways of thinking. A lot of accountants, we're the problem solvers. We've got broad shoulders, and we take on the problems. This whole concept of who, not how, I'm talking at a very fundamental delegation, but at the highest levels of your business, I'm talking about, you know, Simon is a who for you. If you're in Simon's mastermind, Simon is a who, because he brings you the knowledge, he brings you the connection, he brings you the community to bring you to the next level. So Simon's a who for you. Your who's maybe your team members, your managers. Your who's maybe your resources. Your who's maybe your software providers. But you see, we need to get really clear on what's our org chart, who's doing what, and who's delivering the results. We want to develop a system to deliver the results. So this goes the whole way back to the E-Myth, another classic. And you see, some of these books are so old and have done the rounds for so long that people dismiss them and discount them. But the concept of a business format franchise, what do you want to build here? You want to build a self-managing firm. How do you build a self-managing firm? Here's a question for you. Brutal honesty time again. Brutal honesty time. Would you buy your own firm right now? Would you buy your own firm right now? If you were in the market to purchase an accountancy business, would you buy your own firm? So just into the chat box, either a yes or a no.
Des, just while they do that, Des, because there's two ways of looking at that. Obviously, I wouldn't personally buy my firm because I think it's very well run. So I'm more of a sort of the person that would buy a firm that wasn't very well run on the basis that I could build it and make it more profitable.
True. I'm not taking that into account. When I ask the question, I'm looking solely from the perspective of, like, would you buy it? Or would you not buy it because it's too much hassle?
Crap. Right. Okay. Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you.
I like the way Esther though. I couldn't afford it. Esther, that's a really good sign. So develop a single focus growth in a sales process. A single focus growth in a sales process. Some people say to me, but Des, I don't want new clients. I don't need new clients. I've got too much business as it already is. Two things here. Natural law of nature. You're either growing or you're dying. There is no in between. We're either growing or we're dying. Now, the same goes, and this is where I'm tying in the CPD store piece. And, for me, there's physical growth, but then there's intellectual growth and knowledge growth. There's two basic types of mindset. There's a growth mindset and there's a fixed mindset. Now, are you somebody that's open to learning? Are you somebody that's open to knowledge? Are you somebody that believes that, well, you can always grow and improve and realize more potential? Or are you somebody, well, you're born with a certain level of intelligence and this is the way you are? Now, the reality is nobody is either black and white, growth mindset or fixed mindset, but you've got to work out where you are in the spectrum. Where are you on the spectrum? And you see, you got to be careful. A lot of accountants tend to be more conservative and more fixed mindset. And again, Michelle's question about recommending a book on mindset, and holy moly, I've forgotten it. And Carol Dweck, and she has a book on mindset which explores this whole fixed mindset and growth mindset orientation. You see, we've got to be open to the possibility of acquiring knowledge and doing things differently. And when it comes to a focus on growth and sales, I say this very simple statement again. You've got a client base right now. You are where you are on the journey. You have come. Look back at how far you have come. Look back at where you started to where you are now. And acknowledge how impressive a journey that is. But then you also need to accept that what got you here is not going to get you there. So why, even if you don't want to get bigger as a firm, because I know some of you don't, it's about driving profitability, it's about driving quality of life. We should continually be growing because the customers that got us here are not going to get us there. We should continually be looking for the better quality, ideal customer. Okay, so that's enough on the build to sell. This is about you having a strategy and a model.
Two questions, Des. First, please, if I may. What was the name of that book?
Carol Dweck, Mindset.
Carol Dweck. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. And then
DWECK, Carol Dweck.
Thank you. And then on that slide, I've read Built to Sell, but it keeps coming up for me. I've got to go back and reread it. The words, the accountant's growth loop. What's that about?
The accountant's growth loop. You see, Simon, I could upset you now and your audience, right? But not all of us are Instagrammable accountants. We're not Instagrammable accountants, right? Not all of us are going to get out and do TikTok videos and do cool dances and stuff, right? So this again is about honesty. It's about brutal honesty about where are you and where are you on the journey. The accountant's growth loop is really, really simple, okay? And another book to recommend, Michelle, if you want to chalk this one down, Book Yourself Solid by Michael Port. If you're buying Book Yourself Solid, get the illustrated version. Book Yourself Solid is a really simple book that encapsulates, for me, professional services for marketing. And they talk about the 6 pillars of marketing. The 6 pillars of marketing are networking, direct outreach, referrals, writing, speaking, the web. Okay? Now, where the accountant's growth loop comes from is referrals. And you have a client, any client, you have a results conversation with them. And this really is, it's a bit like the Spice Girls. What do you want? What do you really want? What do you really, really, really want? You have a results conversation. What do they want? You get that result for them. When they have the result, now they've got a story to share. And you get them to share that story. In other words, referrals or testimonials. And you see, if you get a result, say, for example, a solicitor, or you get a result for an engineer, or you get a result for a retailer, or you get a result for an online business, who do those people tend to hang around? Other people who are just like them. So when they share the result they got with you and share a testimonial, well, now you get another client. So now you've got 2 clients in that niche. Now we have a conversation with both the clients in that niche. We get an even better result for them. If we can get an even better result for them, now we've got 2 really happy clients, but now they'll have a story to share. And when they've got a story to share, now we get a referral, we get a testimonial. Now we get 4 clients in the niche. Now you've built a niche. And this loop, it's like a snowball rolling down a hill that goes from a small snowball into an avalanche. And you see, it's totally uncool to talk about referrals as being a way to grow your business because you need to be on TikTok and Instagram.
I've got a whole rant about that, Des. I've got a whole rant about that, which I won't go to. So thank you.
That's anybody that's here. I have no issue with you. If you were an accountant who wants to do Instagram and LinkedIn and wants to do all that stuff and is making it work, great, good for you. But my point is, we have to be honest about ourselves. What type of people are we? And we have to meet people where they are on the road. Everybody's journey is different. Like you innovate and modernize within what works. But those 6 pillars of professional services for marketing in Michael Port's book, it's a beautiful book, beautiful read.
Brilliant, thank you. And I'll let you continue. Just before I do, Ashley, I've got your question, and I'll make sure that's covered off when we talk about the CPD store towards the end. So thank you, Ashley.
So the business of accountancy, I want you to think about this for a second, a little bit differently, right? The customers are always the number one customer, okay? So we focus on the customers, but right now, like really what you have, your business is a platform and your business serves the wants and needs of your customers. Now you've got systems, you've got resources, you've got processes to get the result for your customer. The real number one customer now is your team. The real number one customer is your team. This is the scarcest resource. It's the people to do the work. And we've got to look at what people want and what people need. And I was talking to somebody yesterday, and like, you know, they were saying that they're losing a lot of staff, and they couldn't understand why. They work them extremely hard. The firm has no real, like, they just expect people to work. It's the old article clerk model, and they just expect them to work. It's the old trainee model. They haven't moved on. And, you know, somebody left recently, and they surprisingly did an exit interview with them. And they said, well, why are you leaving? Because, like, the job they were going to was the same money. It was for conditions and opportunity. It's not all about the money. It's about the conditions. It's about the flexibility. It's about the opportunity to grow and develop their career. Now, we have to blend everything, but the real business of accountancy now is we've got to work with the right customers. If we don't work with the right customers, you have a limited amount of time and resources. Life is passing. For God's sake, don't spend it working with people who you don't like, your team don't like, nobody likes. Don't work with the vampires that suck the energy out of us. Move them on. Work with the clients that are right for you. Because see, we've got to work with the clients that are right for you and your firm, because that's the only way, that's one of the key things where we attract and retain the people. But we've got to treat our people like a customer. What do they want and need? How can we help develop them? How can we help grow them? Everybody I talk to says, yeah, Des, of course, I know that. When I started training as an accountant in the late 90s, I was on a wage that it was a disgrace. I was like the last of the article clerks. And it's only 25 years ago that this was how our profession ran. And that's deeply embedded in our DNA. So from a learning perspective, we need to learn how things have changed. We need to place a different value on our people. And this is not something you will do overnight. This is a cultural change. You know, and people have become so hard. And you know, it's not just COVID. You see, people were complaining about the millennials. People were complaining about the millennials for years. Those damn millennials, they've ruined everything. It's not just the millennials now, it's the Gen Zs. You know, geriatric millennials are 42 this year. This is not how are we going to deal with the millennials? How are we going to deal with the Gen Zs? This is, they are now own more than 50% of the businesses are controlled by millennials and down. We can't keep doing the same things, expecting it to change. We can't. The world is not going to yield to us. The article clerk, a title used for one who is studying to be an accountant or lawyer. In doing so, they are put under the supervision of somebody already in the profession, now usually for 2 years, but previously 3 to 5 years was common. That's a definition out of the Webster's English Dictionary. And I know you will say to me, well, I think differently. I treat people differently. But do we really? So this is what I was talking about earlier on. Ask yourself a better quality question. Think who, not how. This is a team sport. The most talented players need a team. Now, you are probably very talented. You're probably very talented. But you need a team. You need a team around you. Go back to simple. Results versus effort. Here's a question for you in the chat box. I don't want anybody drifting off on me now. Here's a question in the chat box. Be honest, okay? Be brutally honest. Now, some of you know yourself from Simon's Mastermind, but I'm sure his Mastermind is somewhere where you share things and are honest. Is your primary focus more on results, or are you more of an effort person? You see, the effort people work really hard and they move mountains, but sometimes they're so good at moving mountains, they lose track of the results. Dave is being extremely honest today. Dave is saying effort. Who else? Are you an effort person or a results person? Put one into the chat box here. Come on, pick one. I need to know that there's more than 3 people on this webinar with me. So anybody who's been phased out here, are you a results or an effort person? This comes back to the mindset shift of, well, this is not about me working harder. This is about you playing to your unique ability. And my question for you, I like that distinction, Simon. Your results, but I can be very easily distracted by effort. I love that, Simon, because I think that's the reality for all of us. We want to be results. Intellectually, we're results. But when the rubber hits the road, we end up and we get sucked into effort and we get sucked into that mountain moving heroism. What are you trying to accomplish? And do you have the who's who can help you go further than if you go it as alone? You see, as a culture, as a society, as a profession, we tend to focus on how, but how brings isolation, how brings everything back onto your shoulders. Don't ask how, ask who. I also love your distinction here, Simon, about especially shiny ideas. Oh, let's go over here after this thing. Oh, let's go over here after this thing. How many times have you got sucked off track? Well, you just should have focused on the fundamentals, focused on the basics. Like, let's be honest here, right? So if today is about honesty, let's be honest. Accountancy as a business is very, very easy. It's really, really simple. But yet, why do we make it so complicated and so hard? It's so interesting when I see non-accountants running accounting firms. Or it's so easy sometimes when I see people who've worked in financial control at a high level and they get involved in accounting firms. They have a totally different way of doing it than people who've grown up in practice. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, you go together. Who are your who's? Who are the who's that can change this for you? Okay, I want to talk to you about something about. So I read a book back in November, December 2020. It was called Workquake. And this was a book that was written by a guy pre-COVID. Okay, so he wrote the book pre-COVID and he then released it in COVID, but with some addendums. But what he was talking about was the changing profession or the changing workforce. And so before we all had remote working, things were shifting and changing anyway, and really COVID accelerated it. And here's the thing, very few people now are into jobs for life. There's really no such thing as jobs for life. And really now, what people are looking for is they're looking for flexibility. They're looking for freedom. And here's a question for you in terms of freedom. Are you free? Do you have time freedom that you can take the holidays, take the time and work the way you want? Do you have financial freedom? Financial freedom, not just in the present, but financial freedom that you're building financial freedom for the future. That you have a roadway and a roadmap to, at this date, when I retire, here's what my wealth will be worth. I will have a choice as to whether I retire or not. Relationship freedom. Do you work with the people you want to work with? The people that invigorate you, clients and team, they invigorate you, they inspire you, you enjoy working with them. A purpose freedom. You see, so what's become over COVID is that people are more into freedom. You've heard at this stage the Great Resignation, and you've heard at this stage quiet quitting. Quiet quitting is a huge issue for accountancy firms. It has been for a while. Quiet quitting means basically working to rule. Accountants often put their head in their hands and go, Des, you know, it comes to a deadline or comes to something being done on a Friday evening that needs to be finished for the Saturday, and they just don't get it. They just don't do it. What's this about? Our people want freedom. You want freedom. How are we going to find it together? Now, there's this concept in college basketball. The concept in college basketball is one and done. So when you go from high school in the US, you can't go straight into the NBL. You have to go through college first. So that's very frustrating for a coach, because instead of having these kids for 4 years, they know they're only going to have them for 1 year. But what they do is, the colleges who consistently win the NBL, what they do is they sell to the kids. They get the best pick, the best kids, because they sell. It's not about what you're going to do for me. It's about how I'm going to add value to your career. People want progression. They want to know their career is going somewhere. And you know what's at the heart of your career going somewhere? Is learning, is knowledge, is building a capability, is when your team come to you, it's not about you need to come to me and stay for life. It's you need to come to me because here's the value I'm going to add. This is what I'm going to teach you. This is what you're going to become. Now, hopefully you'll stay with me for a long time. But if that doesn't happen, when you leave me, I will have added value to you as a person. This is a whole new way of thinking. The donkey, what's the donkey about here? Too many customers, not enough ideal customers. A man and a boy set off on a warm summer's day to bring their donkey to the fair to sell it. At the start of the journey, the man was riding the donkey and the boy was walking alongside. And down the road a little bit, they met a group of people and they scolded the man and said, this hot summer's day, you're riding the donkey, making the child walk. Surely the child should be walking. So the man and the boy swapped places. The boy was riding the donkey and the man was walking along beside. So a little bit further down the road, they met another group of people. And this group of people, they scolded the boy and said, you're making this elderly man walk in this hot summer sun while you ride on the donkey. So the man and the boy scratched their head and said, we've been here before. So what they decided was both the man and the boy should ride the donkey. So the man and the boy, they're riding the donkey, getting closer to town now. So they get they're getting closer to town, but they meet another group of people. And this group of people become incensed. The poor donkey in this heat. Two of you on a donkey. What are you thinking of? This is cruelty. So the man and the boy were out of options. So at this stage, they picked up the donkey and started carrying it. But as they went over the bridge over the river just outside the town, the donkey slipped, fell in the river, and drowned. What's the moral of the story? The moral of the story is, if you try to please everybody, you can kiss your ass goodbye. This is not about not having enough customers. This is about having not enough ideal customers, having too many customers in general and not enough ideal customers. This is a really, really simple concept, but it's one. We don't have a red velvet rope policy. If we don't have a red velvet rope policy, everybody gets in. Then we end up with not enough ideal customers. We need to have a system and a methodology for attracting the ideal customers. Because you see, here's the reality of the problems that we have. There's only so many hours in the day. There's only so many hours in the day. You've only got so much bandwidth. Like, this is about priority. And here's an interesting thing with the word priority. Do you know that the plural version of the word priorities only came into existence in the late 19th century? Prior to that, priority was one thing. The Latin root of the word is one thing. The one thing prior. So priorities as a concept is it's bananas. What's your one thing? This comes back to the road that you're on and where you are on the road and the choices that you make. We've got to start making some different choices in terms of where we focus, where we're going to get the best bang for our buck. What should we be doing now? What's the one thing? Okay, think about this question. Get out your pens. Get out your pens. And I'm going to look for an answer in the chat box to this one. Okay, I'm going to look for an answer in the chat box. So I want everybody awake, everybody listening. I'm asking a question here, and if you even haven't answered any questions so far in the chat box, I want an answer to this one. What is the one thing that you can do such that by doing it to completion will make everything else easier or unnecessary? So I'm going to ask that question again. What is the one thing I can do? In other words, I'm in control of it. It's not dependent on anybody else. I can do it such that by doing it to completion, in other words, I take action and I finish it out, will make everything else easier or unnecessary. Think about that. And I just want you to put down, if one thing, Dave, you're on fire, into the chat box every time first is Dave. If there was one thing that you could do, such that by doing it will make everything else easier or unnecessary, what would it be? Come on, don't leave Dave hanging out there on his own. Come on, Esther, you've been very responsive as well, and Ashley. Come on, Martine, you've answered a few as well. Thanks, Raman. So better prioritization. That's a bit of a circular answer there, Raman. And just in terms of book recommendation, a really simple book, a really beautiful book, called The One Thing. That's where that question came from. The One Thing. It's a beautiful book. You'll read it in 3-4 hours, and it's a transformative. But so what's really important here is that we need to get clear on what's our one thing. We need to get clear on what's our people strategy. We need to get clear on what's our customer strategy. We need to get clear on the products and services with the potential to scale. We need to get clear on raising prices. And just before we go any further here, right? Before we go any further, the bottom line is this: you must raise your prices now. No matter who you are, no matter where you are, some people will be well evolved on the pricing journey. Other people will be not so well evolved. The first thing is be realistic and honest about where you are. And the second thing is raise your prices. We've got to raise our prices, and we've got to do it now. We've got to do it now. And there's always somebody cheaper. And you see, the difficulty here with prices, and this comes back to you being honest about where you are. Pricing goes to the heart of who you are. Pricing is about beliefs and self-confidence. Pricing is about our early education. Pricing is about the house that we grew up in, the family we grew up in, the community we grew up in. Pricing is about our early experiences as an individual, as an accountant. Why do some people charge 2 and 3 times more than others for the very same work? It's about the beliefs and self-confidence. You see, what I'm truly about as a person in everything we do in the OmniPro Group and in everything that we do in CPD Store is it's about realizing your potential. We all have potential in us. And to realize the potential, we need to learn and grow and develop. It's about back to basics too, though. and it's about making things easier. Another great book, Simplify, a book by a guy called Richard Koch, Simplify. Now, it's an old book, but he looks at some of the most successful companies in the world and what strategies they adopt. And I've distilled these strategies that these companies have adopted back into a 3-page questionnaire for accountants. And it's really interesting. How can you simplify your business? And it's like that question that Simon asked. It's about referrals and the accountant's growth loop. I'm all for modern marketing strategies. I'm all for cutting edge digital marketing, but I've got to be true to who I am. Accountants, you can't go in and tell an accountant, well, you should do this and you should do that and you should do the other, because all that happens when you tell an accountant should do this, should do that, should do the other, they'll shut all over themselves. You need to find what's going to work for you. Let's simplify all this. Let's bring it all back to basics. What is the one thing that I can do such that by doing it to completion makes everything else easier or unnecessary? Sprinkle in a little bit of who, not how into that. Do we think who? And we don't have to have the entire plan. We've just got to take the first step. We've just got to take the first step. We've got to plan. We've got to take action, because the journey never ends. And this again leads me back to, why is this session entitled A Different Perspective? And, interacting with somebody like Simon and that community that Simon has in his mastermind, this is a way of evolving our thinking. It's a way of evolving what we do and how we do it. But you see, learning and being in a community of learning and an environment of learning, that's why I created CPD Store. CPD Store, what we try and do here is that we do all the technical stuff. So we do the tax, financial reporting, the auditing, the money laundering, corporate finance. We do all of that stuff. But then that's the foundation of learning for you and your team. But what we also do then is we do the stuff like this. We do the personal development, the practice management, the growth. We look at tech, we look at cyber, we look at people, HR, leadership. Because I believe that accountants need to do CPD that helps them evolve and realize their potential. That accountants who are firm owners need to invest in their team's learning to develop them and develop their careers. And this comes back to my book about Carol Dweck and mindset. Are you open and a growth mindset orientated person, or are you a fixed mindset where knowledge is valueless? I believe in growth. I believe in knowledge. I believe the journey never ends. You act, then you assess. You assess, you take another action. You gradually move in the right direction. Unless you take action, you can't course correct. So look, cpdstore.co.uk, we run conferences in the UK. We run webinars twice a week. We're moving to 3 webinars a week. But what we also do on cpdstore.co.uk is we've got a searchable database. So you can come in and you can search a topic. If you're a CPD Club member, you can search a topic. So yeah, you can attend one of our live webinars. So that's 2 a week, moving to 3 a week very shortly. You can attend one of our monthly conferences. So we've got over 250 hours of live stuff, but then we've got all this on-demand stuff. You can go in and you can search the on-demand. So if you've got a question on tax, you can go in and ask the question within our searchable database and find the answer within your CPD. We're changing how people do CPD. We're changing how people consume knowledge. We're about creating CPD that matters, and CPD that develops you as a person and develops your potential. So I think Mark has a link there to put up into the chat box for a special offer that we're running at the moment. in relation to CPD Store. Our next 1,000 members, are getting in for a lifetime offer of $19.99 a month. So we've put it to a point where it's really a no-brainer for any accountant who does CPD to join. So Mark has put that link into the chat box there. So I'd love for you to click on the link and join us in CPD Club if you found anything that I said today of interest and value. I see Ashley has a question here. In Northern Ireland, most of my clients are under UK, but I have the odd ones south of Ireland. Do you have courses, any courses or similar business based in Ireland? I've been to some of your courses before, but would love some for the Irish taxes. Well, Ashley, if you're a Northern Ireland firm, what we're actually doing for Northern Ireland firms and for our UK firms is we have been running CPD in Ireland for the last 20 years. So we literally have thousands of hours of CPD. So what we do is we make that available. If we make that available to our Northern Ireland or UK members, that if they join CPD Club, they can actually get some of our Irish courses through that way. But actually, if you want to join CPD Club, we can definitely get you access to not just all our UK material, but to our Irish material as well. Okay, so you just want to thank you all for your interaction in the chat box and your interaction throughout the session. Is there any final questions before we go? Is there anything that I've hit on that you disagree with, or is there anything that anybody wants to ask before we finish up?
And that's brilliant, Des. Just while we give people opportunity to post in the boxes if they can, I love a good story, love a story, a parable, and the first time I'd heard the donkey one and the losing your ass one. So I'll be pinching that. Well, not pinching it from you because no doubt it's been about for thousands of years.
I think it could have been a man who was renowned for his fables called Aesop who wrote that one.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Well, I'll credit him whenever I use it. And also the question about would you buy your own accountancy practice is a really thought-provoking and challenging question, because there was lots of things that came up. Obviously around whether I would buy it because it was good or bad or whatever, but it's the insider knowledge. It's that team member's perhaps not quite as good as, so would I be buying it with that team member involved, and all the little nuances around that. So it's a great thinking time question. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, if you were buying your own firm, due diligence would be very interesting, because there's no skeletons in the closet. Everything's out in the open.
Yeah, it'd be a really interesting experience. But not that if anybody wants to buy my practice, then it's obviously worth a small fortune, and I am open to offers as always. So that just leaves me to say thank you, Des. There's no more questions popped in the chat box. That just leaves me to say thank you very much, Des, for coming along and for inspiring, challenging, and supporting the community in certain cases particularly challenging. So thank you very much for that. And thank you to the community that have come along, and for Ashley and various people that have posted in the chat box and the questions. As I always say, it's those questions that you ask that make these sessions unique. So thank you very much, and goodbye for now. Cheers, Des. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. What a session that was with Des from OmniPro and CPD Store. As always, if you've got value from the video, please hit the like button. If you've not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe as well. And if you have any comments or questions, please post them below, and I will gladly ask Des the questions for you and pass those comments on. In the meantime, on the screen now, somewhere you should see the next 2 videos that we recommend you watch to help inspire, challenge, and support you to have a better accountancy practice.